The Layers panel is one of the most important and frequently used panels as it helps you organise and control your artwork. As we start delving into more complex fashion drawing, you will find the Layer panel invaluable, and it is one you will probably have open 90% of the time. You can find the Layers panel in the panel bar. If it's not there, go to Windows and Layers. As I use the Layers panel constantly, I usually have it undocked and floating above the canvas. So what is a layer? Think of a layer as a sheet of tracing paper. I can draw different elements of my design on different layers, overlaying one above the other to complete the drawing. There are two main reasons for doing this. Firstly, I can lock out or hide any one or more layers or paths within a layer at any one time, making it much easier to edit target parts of the drawing. A drawing may consist of hundreds of separate overlapping paths, and targeting a particular one to select and edit would be very fiddly and tricky without being able to hide or lock paths that I didn't want affected. Secondly, I can add custom names to layers and paths within a layer, making it much easier to identify different parts of the drawing. For example, I may have different layers for the shirt outline, the collar, the placket, the sleeves and the cuffs, so I can quickly identify each part to lock out, hide or edit. So let's open a new document and start creating some layers of our own. A document will always have one layer called Layer 1. I'm just going to go ahead and select my rectangle tool and draw a simple shape on the artboard. Layer 1 now has a little arrow to the left of it, indicating that this layer now has an object on it. To see the details of this layer, I'm going to click on the arrow to expand, and I can see the rectangle object. Now let's create a quick ellipse on this same layer. I get a new object on Layer 1. I can rename both layers and objects within layers. To rename the layer, I'm going to double-click on the words Layer 1. This now becomes an editable field and I can type in my own name. I'm going to call this layer Shapes. To rename the objects within a layer, it's the same thing. Just double-click on their default name and type in your own instead. I'm going to call this one Ellipse. So let's now make a new layer. To do this, click on the new layer icon at the bottom of the panel. This becomes Layer 2. I'm going to rename this one Stars. I'm now going to select my star tool and quickly draw a number of stars on this layer. Let's expand the star layer. You can see that the star that I have selected on the artboard has a red square to the right of it. Instead of using the selection tool to select objects on the artboard, I can also click in the area to the right of the objects in the Layers panel. To select multiple objects at once, hold down either the Shift or the Control key, or Command if you are using a Mac. Different layers have different colours associated to them. If I look at my Shapes layer and click on the objects, you can see that they have a blue square associated to them. You will notice on the artboard the selected shape has a bounding box colour that matches the colour of the layer that it is on. This is so you can easily see to which layer an object belongs as you select it on the artboard. If you want to change the layer colour, you can do this via the layer options by double-clicking on the layer thumbnail. You can choose one of the predefined colours, or you can define one of your own, and you can also rename your layer here. So let's talk layer ordering. I'm just going to add some fill colours to the shapes on my artboard, as this will make it easier to see what is happening. So the first thing I can do is reorder the layers themselves. I can do this by dragging and dropping them within the Layers panel. The objects on the artboard reflect the layer order. Objects that are on the bottom layer appear beneath objects that are on the top layer. It is the same for objects within a layer. I'm going to drag and drop and reorder the shapes within the layer. I can also drag and drop shapes between active layers, and by that I mean layers that are not locked or hidden. So let's just go ahead and drag some of my stars into the Shapes layer. So as I just mentioned, layers can also be locked and hidden. With either option, the objects within the layer are not editable. To hide a layer, click on the eye icon to the left of the layer. To unhide, click again. To lock a layer, click in the square to the right of the eye icon. Once the layer is locked, a padlock icon will appear. Now if I try to select the objects on the artboard that are contained within this layer, I can't. To unlock the layer again, just click on the padlock icon. Just like we can with layers, we can also hide and lock the individual objects within a layer. To hide an object, click the eye icon, and to lock an object, click in the padlock area. We can take layer organisation one step further and create sublayers and also groups of objects within layers. A sublayer just behaves like a normal layer, but it is just nested within a parent layer. However, groups allow us to link objects together so they can be edited as one master object. First, let's take a look at sublayers. To create a sublayer, I make sure I have my desired parent layer selected in the Layers panel. Then I click the new sublayer icon. A new layer appears under the parent layer. I can now go ahead and either create new objects on this layer, or I can drag and drop existing objects. So next I'm going to show you how to group objects. You can create groups from objects that are on different layers, but once grouped they will automatically be put on the same layer. I'm just going to select a couple of my star objects using the Shift key. To add them to a group, I'm going to right-click and select Group. The objects are now placed within a group in the Layers panel. I can expand this group to see the objects within it. Now watch what happens if I try to move one of the group stars on the artboard. The whole group moves as one. If I try to change the stroke weight or the fill colour, this also affects all objects within the group. Grouping can be a really useful feature to preserve the relational layout of the grouped objects if you need to move them, and saves time in making changes. Sometimes, however, you will have grouped objects, then you will find you need to make a change to just one of the objects within the group. To do this, instead of trying to select the object with the selection tool on the artboard, directly select the object via the Layers panel. You can now make changes to this one object without affecting the other objects within the group. I can still select the group with the selection tool and move and edit as one. There will be times when you have a complex drawing with lots of overlapping objects within the same layer, and you need to make changes to one of those objects only. You could try locking the surrounding objects, but it can be fiddly locating them all in the Layers panel and locking them. Another option is to put the object you wish to edit in isolation mode. This effectively isolates the object so it is temporarily the only editable object on the artboard. So to put an object in isolation mode, all you need to do is double click on it with the selection tool. This brings the chosen object to the forefront temporarily and fades or locks out all other objects. I can now go ahead and edit this object without having to worry about affecting others. So let's go ahead and take the eraser tool and erase a section of this rectangle. To exit isolation mode, double-click on the artboard away from the object with the selection tool. And finally, let's look at how to delete a layer. I'm just going to click on my Shapes layer and drag it onto the Delete icon. When you delete a layer, all the objects on that layer will also be deleted. You can also delete sub-layers, groups and objects in the exact same way. Just select them in the Layers panel and drag them onto the Delete icon. So that concludes our tutorial on layers.